Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey, National ERISA and Individual Disability Attorney. Welcome to Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I have to give you a legal disclaimer. The Florida Bar has said I've got to tell you that this is not legal advice. So I've done my due diligence. But nothing will ever prevent me from giving you an easy to understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games the disability carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. Today, I'm going to talk about chronic headache claims. Now, I get a lot of chronic headache claims, and I want to make sure that before you stop work and apply for benefits or you deal with a wrongful denial of your claim, that you understand some basics. So I'm going to talk about Migraine 101. I'm going to talk about how the court rejected MetLife's demand that a policyholder with chronic headaches produce objective evidence of disability. And I'm going to talk about migraine long-term disability insurance claims and the subjective medical evidence trap that's waiting for you in your disability insurance claim. Let's take a break for a moment before we get started. Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy and Migraines 101. Disability insurance companies don't make it easy for policyholders who have headaches or migraines to get the disability benefits they deserve. You can count on that from the very beginning of your claim. There are lots of reasons why disability carriers deny these claims, and I'm going to be talking about those. One of the first reasons why claims get denied is that they'll claim that there's no objective testing to support the diagnosis. Yet we know that headache and migraine claims are often denied because of the fact that there's no gold standard for the diagnosis of a headache or a migraine. And oftentimes CT scans and MRIs are normal. In fact, we know that based on the diagnostic criteria recognized by physicians, that the diagnosis is really made on the basis of subjective complaints. What they're looking for is a history of a recurrent headache with sensitivity to light, sensitivity to sound, sensitivity to movement, nauseousness, vomiting, auras, and visual disturbances. Now, the International Headache Society has created a table with diagnostic criteria that's often used to explain the basis of that diagnosis. I think you should get yourself a copy of it. One of the ways that I begin to try to overcome the carrier's arguments to make sure that at every visit, my client is giving an interval history of their symptoms and how those symptoms impact their ability to function. Now, legally, a carrier can say that there isn't any basis for the restrictions and limitations, and they may do crazy things like assign investigators to film you outside your house and say that you can work, notwithstanding your headache. So as a result, I think that there are ways that you need to buttress, justify, help explain the basis of the restrictions and limitations that your physician has assigned. One of the primary ways to do that is a headache diary. And you can be very sophisticated and use an Excel spreadsheet. You could write it on your calendar. I don't care how you do it, but I think that you should be documenting, as I've said, your symptoms and how those symptoms impact your ability to function. How many headaches are you having? When did they start? How long did they last? What is it that you did to try to control those headaches? You want to make sure that that is a part of your chart, because the disability carrier is going to get a copy of it. And please, please keep a copy of it, because I want to use it in any sort of claim denial or termination appeal. Now, another tip is to take pictures as appropriate, documenting your vomiting. I know that's gross, but it is what it is. Or if you are in pain, you're in a cool, dark room, you have compresses on your head, get somebody to take a picture of it. Now, I think that that is the kind of information in combination with a diary that will help a doctor address the objective basis for the restrictions and limitations. Now, one of the other things that I think is crucial is that you need to get treatment by the right type of doctor. Often disability carriers will say, look, your GP, your PCP, your OBGYN, whomever is not qualified to render an opinion about your claim because you're not seeing a neurologist, or you're not seeing a neurologist who specializes in headaches or migraines. And in some cases, you're not even seeing a pain specialist who might do occipital nerve blocks or other forms of treatment that would address your migraines. So those are the kinds of problems that we can see just right out of the box, and some practical solutions to those defenses. Now, I think it's also important you understand how do carriers view headaches and migraine claims. Now, you are going to be faced most likely with the argument that you've been working for years with these problems. Nothing's changed. You worked yesterday, you should be able to work today. So it's crucial that your medical records develop the progression of your symptoms. And that, again, is, I think, done by doing a pain, a headache, or diary that basically establishes the frequency of your headaches, the length of your headaches, what it is you try to do to control those headaches, and if there are specific things that will bring on the headaches. Another thing that you should reasonably anticipate is if you've recently gotten your disability insurance policy, the carrier may argue that coverage is excluded under the pre-existing condition clause, or if they decide to pay the claim, then they're going to pull out another tool from their defense carrier toolbox, and that's the subjective medical condition limitation. The subjective medical condition limitation clause may say, hey, benefits are just limited to 2 years for conditions that are based on your subjective complaints of pain, headaches, visual issues. So you need to understand that going into the claim. There are certain things I think that you need to do before you stop work and apply for your disability benefits. And I also think these are potentially applicable if your claim is being denied or is being terminated. But the starting point from my perspective is that you should get a copy of your disability policy, because we want to understand how the policy defines the term disability, occupation. Is there a self-reported condition limitation? You need to understand what it is you need to prove. The second thing we've got to do is get a copy of your medical records. Is there an objective basis for your doctor's diagnosis using the recognized headache diagnostic criteria? You also want to see if your records are reporting your symptoms and your functionality. We also want to make sure that you get a copy of your personnel file. Now, why would you want to do that? We want to see whether or not in that personnel file there's a history of you having problems performing the material and substantial duties of your occupation because of the headaches. How has it impacted your work performance? Get a copy of your occupational or job description, because ultimately we have to prove you can't do the material and substantial duties of those occupations. And we want you to explain in writing to your physician what those duties are, what problems you're having, whether or not there's been any modification, because ultimately your doctor is going to be rendering an opinion about the diagnosis, the restrictions and limitations, your ability to work. And if the doctor doesn't understand your occupational duties, doesn't have your pain diary, it's going to be kind of hard for them to do that. Now, that diary, as I said, I think is a really crucial. And there are times when I have to tell my clients, I don't want to file this claim right yet because I want you to start keeping the diary. And I want you to maintain that diary even after we apply for benefits. These are complex cases. You need the assistance of an experienced disability attorney to analyze the policy, your medical records, your occupational description. Make sure that the necessary proof is there before you stop work. And certainly if you are being set up for a claim denial or termination, to make sure that the applicable and relevant evidence is being developed to assist you in your disability claim. So now that you've got a sense of Headaches 101, let's take a break and we'll move on to our next segment, and we will be talking about how a court rejected MetLife's demand that a policyholder with chronic headaches produce objective evidence of disability.